It's Hollie's Hotspurs, welcome back. Talking Tottenham every week, no better place to be sat. If it's a win, lose, draw, we'll be here for a chat. Best believe we tackle topics like Romero in the back. Young Min Son, what can go wrong when he's on form? It's a dream come true, so sit back, relax and vibe with us. Special guests every time here to discuss. Bring your passion, come along for the ride, and don't forget to subscribe, cause...
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollie's Hotspurs Live, where tonight, ladies and gents, we have a 3-0 win to dissect and talk about against Everton away from home. And with me tonight to do so, at the moment, I'm joined by two fabulous guests. So first of all, Gary, it's amazing to have you on the show for the first time. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, good. Great to be here. Excited to talk about a good win. Not pretty, but 3 points is 3 points, I always say. So, yeah, excited to talk about that.
100%. No, it will be good. And also, joining us back again, FORMZ. How are you, my friend?
I am good. I'm good. We're third. It's so nice. It's lovely. How can you not be good?
No, 100%. And it's also nice, obviously, to beat Everton for the first time at their ground too, or their new ground, shall I speak. So amazing stuff. We will potentially have Josh as well joining us at some point, but it's great to have everybody on. Thank you to everybody that also is tuning in live, that's going to rewatch this. Really appreciate it. Make sure you get your chat into the comment section. Make sure you're liking this video. And without further ado, let's kind of crack on with it. So yeah, another win, another clean sheet as well. So Gary, I'll come to you first. What were your overall thoughts on that game against Everton?
Sorry, you're a bit of an echo then. Did you say what was my thoughts on the game? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no, I was really happy, to be honest. I thought that it was difficult in stages, but it was always going to be when you're away from home, especially somewhere, like Everton's traditionally a difficult place anyway. But they hadn't lost at the new stadium, so it was nice to go there, put 3 points on the board, and like Forbes said, we're third now after that, and that's a great way to come out away from Liverpool. In terms of the game itself, not pretty. It wasn't a pretty win. I think the 3-0 kind of flattered us in a little bit, because I think that Vicario pulled off some absolutely superb saves. But all credit to Thomas Frank and what he's been doing at the club since he's come in. He's really shored out that defence for us. We've only conceded 7 in the Premier League, joint second in terms of goals conceded, third in the league now. So yeah, I'm really happy to come away with the 3 points, and more so because there was a lot of rumbling starting with a lot of the fans that they were unhappy, which baffles me a little bit, if I'm honest. People are expecting Football Manager and FIFA reactions. You could just jump on, not the new Football Manager, by the way, it's awful, but the older ones, and you could jump on and make a big change really, really quickly, and it's just not going to happen. We had 22 losses last season. It's going to take some time, but look, he's come in and just completely changed our defensive structure and set pieces, and I'm just really happy with that, and I'm happy to see where things are going. So yeah, very, very pleased. Slightly surprised. I thought we were going to be a draw, but yeah, take 3 points all day long.
Oh yes, we do like, especially with how our kind of form at home's been. Obviously, going away, we seem to be better at doing that at the minute. But for you, FORMZ as well, was it the same sort of thing? Like, you were happy, obviously, with the win, but more so how we kind of did it with a clean sheet as well.
Yeah, I think that you say that the result flattered us, but I don't actually think it did, because the game is the way that the game is at the moment, and you can say that them lot down the road, all their results flatter them because they only score from set pieces. So why can't we do it at least once? And like you said, Thomas Frank has shaped the defence in a way that means that we can keep clean sheets away from home and not have to be like, oh my God, what? We kept a clean sheet, because that's just the way that we're set up now. And I like that. And I think Vicario got a lot of slack, a lot of stick. And I never understood it, because I think he's a great goalkeeper. Is he Donnarumma? No. Is he Raya? No. Is he the best of what we've got? Yes. Does he perform well? Yes. Does he make mistakes? Who doesn't? So, I've always been a big fan of Vicario, and I think the past couple of days he's really silenced his doubters, which has been really good. Yeah, it's one of them where you look at our record this season. You look at Frank's starting record at Spurs, and forgetting who we've played, because the loss to Bournemouth, the loss to Villa weren't good. But forgetting who we've played, the fact that we've only lost 2 games in however many games he's been in charge of across all competitions, you would have taken that at the start of last season, especially compared to last year. And I think that, you know how they say Spurs always do like decently well at the start of each season. It's like, oh, 10 games in, Spurs look like they could be there, and then it declines. I think that they say that defense wins leagues. Do I think we're going to win the Premier League this year? Probably not. But what our defense is doing is assuring me that we're not going to have that major fall off. And you're probably going to mention Danso at some point, but we finally got a player who, when you've got one big dog like Romero or Van der Ven out for a game or 2 games, 3 games, you've got a player who can slot in, and you think, you know what, I'm actually quite comfortable with him being there, rather than going, oh my God, is Sanchez going to give a goal away, or is someone else really going to make a mistake? Like I'm quite content, and I'll leave it at that.
No, it's a great shout. And we were going to get onto Danso, but it kind of moves it into a great segue because, Gary, before we kind of get onto the game itself, like FORMZ has kind of said with Danso, it's great to have a third kind of inline centre-back that does so well like Danso does. I think there were some crazy stats that he made like 18 clearances, which is the most we've ever seen from a defender since Jan Vertonghen days. So for you, what's your kind of thoughts on Danso and how good he is slotting into that kind of centre-back role when Romero's not there?
I'm a massive fan of his, and when he came in this January, I think it was last year, right? Came in January.
Mhm.
I was a bit, look, we needed somebody, and I was apprehensive, I guess. But he's just slotted in so well, and he seems a real team player. He seems like everybody within the squad really likes him. And I don't know if you've seen some of the videos that went out today of him just dancing around to like the Mickey Van der Ven song at the end, and it just looks like he's really slotted in so well. And as you said, like yesterday, 18 clearances, 6 duels won, and 0 fouls. I mean, and that's away from home. And let's be frank about it, he's not the starter. But he's just a solid defender, and we really needed that. And I'm really, really happy that he's at the football club. I'm so pleased that we made the deal permanent as well. He can just slot in very well, and he doesn't look like he's going to be unhappy if he's not playing. I think Thomas Frank has mentioned a couple of times that he's ready, and he's a proper professional. He's ready to go whenever called upon, and they're the type of players we want at the football club. I know Ben Davies gets a lot of sort of hate as well, but in previous years he's always had that sort of mentality. He's there and he'll slot in as whenever you need him, and you do need that. And when you're playing performances like he did yesterday, and he has done pretty much since he's played for us, I can only really think of one game where I thought he's not having the greatest game, and that was against Palace last season, and at the end, the last game of the season. But let's be fair, nobody was. And I thought, oh no, Kevin Danso's not having a great day. But nobody did. So it's like, okay, we just let that go. But I can't tell you a game where I've gone, oh my God, what the heck have we got here? More, I'm so happy he's plays for us because he's fantastic.
I think that's the thing as well, because obviously I know Ange Ball is different to Frank Ball, but with those injuries as well, FORMZ, to have someone like Danso, like we've kind of already mentioned, is just solid and a rock. And when you need him, he'll slot in and performs amazingly.
On the right or the left as well. Like when Van der Ven's out, cool. Danso might not be left-footed. Chuck him on the left. He doesn't care because he's just very much like a cool. I'm a big boy. I can get stuck in, and I will because I want it. And he's a player who does bring personality to the dressing room. You can tell he slotted in very, very nicely from the moment that he entered the club. And I think that is credit to Ange for building that kind of family feel in the dressing room. So I feel like anyone who would have signed, I mean, look at Tell coming in and establishing himself in the dressing room as being one of those characters. And you can see that on the pitch after one of those games where he, at 19 years old, was going to talk to the fans and trying to build that connection with them. And he was only on loan, as was Danso. So I think it started with that and has just continued in a nice manner, especially because we're getting some good results. And obviously he's getting game time, which is nice. Yeah, big up Danso. What a G.
Big up Danso, yeah, and there's a lot more to come from him as well. Because obviously with that Romero injury, and like I say, we've got so many games coming up thick and fast. We are going to need him. So big up Danso. But obviously going back to obviously the game itself. Obviously the starting lineup came up, and coming to you, Gary. Obviously we saw Kolo Mauani kind of start this game. What have you kind of made of him coming into the side and adding that kind of strike force up front? Because obviously without Solanke, we haven't really had that presence.
No, we've really struggled, and I've said on a number of other sort of podcasts that our biggest struggle, in my opinion, is having a striker that can play with his back towards the goal, that can hold the ball up first, but can win a cheap foul. And what I mean by a cheap foul is that to relieve pressure from our back line or our midfield, because a lot of times the ball is just bypassing our midfield. It's going over the top of them all the time, and it's very difficult on our defence of structure to reset. And when you have a striker that can play with his back to the goal, has a good first touch, and can just nick a cheap foul, a la Harry Kane. If you watch Harry, obviously we've all watched Harry Kane play so many times, but you look at what he does for England and for Bayern Munich now, he does that. When there's some pressure, you automatically kind of know that he's going to win that cheap foul. And Richarlison just doesn't have that ability to do that. His first touch isn't good enough, and he's not strong enough. He wants to turn as much as he can. That's why he's probably more of a winger. So I was very happy that Mauani came in and played, actually, and he needed to. And it just showed the difference. Not only could he run the channels, which was great because he's pacey, but he had the ability in the air as well, but could also play with his back to the goal, and he's got a good first touch. That relieves so much pressure when when Jack Grealish is at us the whole time down that left hand side or whatever's happening. You do need to get a striker that is competent in doing that, and Mauani definitely was on Sunday. I thought he played very well. Was really happy with his minutes. I think it's only going to get better for him. We've definitely missed Solanke because Solanke gives us that. But I hope that Mauani now can step in and play more and more games. And to be fair to Richarlison, I thought he actually played okay when he came on, and he ran the channels a little bit better. But we definitely look more promising with Kolo Mauani up front. So yeah, I was really pleased he's got those minutes under his belt now, and hopefully he can kick on.
I think so as well, because like you say, I'm not knocking Tel because I do think it's a confidence kind of thing with him, but I think Kolo is definitely the man to be that presence more so at the top. And obviously talking about structure,
it's difficult for someone like Tel that he's not lightweight. He's a tall guy, but that's not what suits him as a footballer. With his back towards the goal, he's facing the opposition. He likes to run on ice. He likes to move outside. And when you're playing with one man up front, that doesn't help, because then any of the balls that are coming from the midfield or the back line, they need to go out to wide areas now, because the central figure isn't working for us, and then that causes problems because most of the time those wide figures should be tracking back. Look at Kudus, the amount of times he tracks back in a game. So Tel struggles with that as well, and the only person I've seen that can do it is Mauani so far. So yeah, it's not on Tel at all. You're just different types of players, and we just don't have that as a replacement at the moment.
No, and that's the thing. We don't have that kind of like for like so far. I know Solanke's brilliant, but he hasn't really got kick going because he's been injured. But obviously talking about that kind of structure, it was interesting yesterday, FORMZ, to actually see this kind of midfield dynamic with Kudus going through the middle, Simmons on one side and Johnson on the other. What did you kind of make of that? Because I think we have struggled again in that midfield area because of the likes of players being injured.
I think Kudus has very obviously been our most creative player so far this season. And so, I mean, where he played for West Ham, he played on the right, the left, and through the middle. So being our creative hub and us desperately needing that confident, creative player through the middle, I really didn't have any complaints. I think that Thomas Frank knows how to get the best out of the players that he's got in front of him. It's one of my favourite things. He goes, look, injuries is a part of football. He's not going to sit there and go, we're so many injuries, that's why we're in the relegation zone. And then, yeah, so I really didn't mind it. And I think it worked. But the thing that I am urging Spurs fans to do is get behind Xavi, because yes, he's not a born left winger, and he may not have what it takes to be the next Heung-min Son, but that's not why we signed him. That's not why we want him to go there. I think that obviously his best position is in the 10, but the Premier League doesn't translate to the Bundesliga. There's raw talent there, there is, and I just think without the pressure that I think some fans might be putting on him, and a little bit more time, he's going to thrive. I also think it is annoying because to play with a Kulusevski or a Maddison, I'm talking for Xavi to play with a Kulusevski or a Maddison, or even to train with them and to see how they make this squad tick, is only going to influence him and make him a better player. But he just needs that like one goal to click things into place. He got one assist and it came in his first game, and then things weren't necessarily looking too confident, but that when he is confident, whether he's 22 or whether he's going to be 32 in 10 years time, he will still have that level of confidence. So maybe, I don't know, maybe seeing Kudus through the middle will make him go, okay, cool, my turn.
No, you make some valid points, because I think that's the thing. I think a lot of us Spurs fans, not all of us, but some of us, we are too eager to see a player come into the Premier and absolutely light the place on fire. But I think he will. It's just that element of kind of confidence. Because, Gary, there was times yesterday where you could see him going to take the ball, but then misplaces his pass or doesn't have the right touch, and that will all come.
Yeah. Well, he's a quality player. He's not played at the places he's played if he wasn't quality and gone for the transfer fees and things like that. He, playing for his national side and semi-finals of cups and things with his national side as well. And he's a fantastic footballer. And we've just got to remember that this is the elite of elite. This is the biggest league on the planet, and it will take some players longer than others. However, off the top of my head, I couldn't name you 5 players that have been signed this summer in the whole of the Premier League that have just gone absolutely, ball in. That have come from outside of the Premier League. I can't even think of 2 or 3, if I'm honest. So it's a hard league, and it's very physical, and I think that's what he's struggling with, the physicality and the pace of it. And that will come the more he plays in it, the more he gets comfortable, the more, like FORMZ says, that the more players that he's playing with on a regular basis in training and seeing how they play. Kudus playing in the 10 was great. I think the main reason he probably was moved in there was that Brennan Johnson's probably tracks back a little bit better, and that was to double up on Grealish and help out a little bit more. I think that was kind of the vision of it. But at times we had both of them down that right, and Xavi was sort of, free-flowing into the centre and into the left. So it's going to take him time, and we just have to appreciate that not everybody hits the ground running. Not everybody's Song that scores I think he called a brace on his first game for the club. So not everybody's going to do that, and we need to understand that. But equally, when Xavi does play, and he's going to be playing with Kulusevski and Maddison and Solanke, the players now are going to be focusing on Kudus, Solanke, Maddison, and it's going to open more areas for Xavi to start playing in. And at the moment, I think a lot of the focus is, okay, well, I know that Xavi Simons is there. If we can keep him quiet, but also focus on on Kudus, we're probably okay with this front 4 at the moment in terms of the defensive team that we're playing against. So I think more quality players come in, he'll slot in better. But I've got no issues where he is at the moment.
I think that's a great shout. Oh, go on,
100 mil on a winger in Jan. 100 mil on a winger in Jan. Please.
I think that is some. Sorry, go on.
Yes, 100 mil on a left winger. I don't. There's a couple in my mind I'd love, but we need it because that will open up things. It will confuse defenders, confuse the midfielders. That if you're say we got Semenyo, which would be my ideal deal on the left, you're focusing on him. Then you're going, actually, we got Kudus over here. Oh my God, we got Xavi here, and also we need to worry about Solanke. That's going to be difficult, and that opens up areas for other players and people like Xavi Simons to move in around it.
Also, after yesterday, I think Ndai, that was low key his audition to play for Spurs. Because if it's not Semenyo, I would happily slap him on the wing. I can see him in a Spurs shirt, or if it's not him, Grealish. Why not? I don't. There's so many, that are
Yeah.
playing in the Prem. That means you don't have to look outside the league, and
No.
that's what I think we need. We need a player who
I'm a big
knows
Grealish
how to
fan.
use
I
it.
thought Grealish would have changed things for us this season, especially on
Mm,
a loan. That I couldn't believe we didn't go for that.
yeah.
If I'm honest, very
Mm.
surprised.
Be interesting to see what kind of happens in January. But it's a very valid point in terms of the focal point is highly on Kudus at the moment. Hopefully, when we have more players coming back, we'll kind of open up space and time for Simmons. Before we kind of move on, I'm gonna bring in Josh for us now. Bear with me, because like I say, I still am not used to this platform. Where are you, Josh? Hello, Josh. How are you, friend?
There he is, and
You're
he's
on
on
mute,
mute.
my friend.
Still
Hi.
nothing.
And
I'll
he's
let
on.
Josh. Are you back? Hello? No, I can't hear you, man. While Josh sorts out his kind of voice at the moment, I'll come to you, Forms, because obviously we will talk about that player that did manage to score a brace yesterday. My man, Daddy Longlegs, Mickey van der Ven. What have you made of that man?
I haven't posted it yet, but in this week in the Prem, the bars were it's a winning weekend at the Hilly Dickinson, Mickey van der Ven. Oh, that's my captain, and he's brilliant. Like that. What a man. What a man. Oh my God. There's not many people on the planet that could go to an away stadium in the Premier League where a team is undefeated and score a brace at centre back, but could also be a Hugo Boss model. And it's what man can do it all. I think he. It's weird because obviously the fact that he's got such pace meant that we all went, oh, he's such a good defender because he can get forward and sprint back and put those challenges in. I don't actually think he was like, oh, an incredible defender when we signed him. I just think using his pace and his size was great, and it was like, oh my God, this guy's brilliant. But I think this season he's really come into himself as a defender as well as a Ange ball, just be a lump and go forward and sprint back when we need you to. I think that he's so confident now. Not that he wasn't before, but he's so confident now, and he just looks so stable at the back. It doesn't matter who's next to him. It used to be like, okay, when Van der Ven and Romero are playing next to each other, they both bring the best out of each other. Incredible. I think if you put Van der Ven next to Gray or Davis or I haven't even seen Kota Takai play, but I know Van der Ven will be that stable figure. I just think that his confidence has grown, his ability to lead and be a voice on the pitch has grown. Obviously, he's an aerial threat on both ends of the pitch. We are so lucky to have a player like Mickey van der Ven at the club because his influence has just been insane. And I can't speak more highly of the man. Which also,
And
going back to
Crash.
the Xavi thing, is great because for Xavi to come in and see somebody who's from the same place, they play for the same national team, and see the impact that he's having on the team, it's only gonna make Xavi feel more comfortable and less alone in that sense. So, as an all rounder in every sense of the word, Van der Ven is just the guy.
He is the guy. And I think that's the thing as well, because Josh, I will come to you for this one, because that's 5 goals for him now in all competitions. And like Form said, I think Frank said it as well, he's kind of stepped up his game this season, really grown into obviously being captain as well when Romero's not around.
No, absolutely. Can you hear me now?
No, he's still on mute.
Okay, good.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, I had to be careful there. I had to change the settings. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the two things that I always felt that he was lacking in his game was his ability to play a long ball, which he can do, and we're seeing that, and his aerial ability. I always thought for a guy his size.
Oh no.
Yeah, for a guy his size, he should
Yeah,
have
that
been
long ball for Kudus as well, which was offside last home game. That was the free
Don't
ball.
tell me my Wi-Fi just gone there.
Yeah, you're back now.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
back
you're
now.
back now.
Oh, my days. Yeah, no, he's got the aerial ability, which I thought he was missing, and that long ball. So I'm really pleased with that. And I always felt he was a good defender. And I think that the Ange system was always going to cause problems for him because although, yes, he's very quick, we saw obviously that injury that he got against, was it Chelsea the first time around? And we're always thinking, oh, it's going to be another hamstring injury. He doesn't have to do that now. And you were saying, Forms, you were saying like Van der Ven next to anyone. I'm just really excited for the prospect of Van der Ven next to Vuskovic.
Yeah.
When Vuskovic finally gets that chance, and he's, his loan is unbelievable at the moment. He's playing so well for Hamburg, and I do think that eventually Romero might be that guy that does go. But look, with a player of the quality of Van der Ven, now that he's adding goals to his game, now that he's showing kind of the overall balance you want to see from a top centre back, it's going to be hard to keep hold of a player like that, because who wouldn't want a player with that quality, that pace, that ability? So many teams, Liverpool are going to be short of centre halves next season. Kanate looks like he's going. If you're Liverpool, you're probably doing everything you can to get Van der Ven. I think that was one of the clubs that was linked with him when we got him. And I hate to use this word, right? I hate to use it. It's not my thing when it comes to football, but aura. Like, the guy has got mad aura. Like, he's one of those. If I was in the tunnel and he was next to me, I'm not sure I'd fancy myself. So it's really good to have that, and it's a good base to build off of. And despite our attacking frailty, and I am very concerned about that at the moment. At least that defensive kind of solidity is there. I mean, what was it, 16 sheets last season in the Premier League, and we're already on 4. And Van der Ven's playing a really, really crucial role. Why, that has been the case.
Yeah, I think so as well. And obviously for me, I call him Daddy Longlegs. He's bringing all the goodness for us. And I know you spoken about obviously other teams kind of stepping up, but Gary, I think I read today, I know Twitter's not the gospel truth, but there are rumours that we are trying to solidify a new long-term deal with Micky Van der Ven, and that would just be immense, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I heard that a few weeks ago as well, and read it a couple of times since. It makes complete sense to me. He's, as FORMZ says, he's stepping up more into a leadership role as well. I think you look at the last couple of games, not only the players looked behind him as well, especially at the end of the game yesterday. They looked fully behind him. Obviously they were celebrating. He'd scored a couple of goals, but just the celebrations, everything about him, as Josh was saying, that aura that he has, he definitely needs that new contract. And I think, again, that's a great thing for us long term. I think in the summer when we re-signed Christian Romero, to me that was like a new signing that gave other players, not only within the club but around, that were looking at Tottenham going, hang on a minute, a World Cup winner wants to cement his long-term future to that club. This might actually be somewhere I want to go. And equally, you look at a player like Micky Van der Ven, that, let's be fair, he could play for anyone in this league. I'm delighted it's us he plays for. But again, they look around and go, actually, hang on a minute, I've got a World Cup winner there. There's an unbelievable centre back there. They've got a couple of really good youngsters there, and I'm a left-sided midfielder or attacker or whatever I am looking in, thinking, actually, this might be a decent place for me to go here. And that shows intent as a football club. And I hope we get a little notification that tells me sign a new contract as man crush. I'm with FORMZ on that one. he's a hell of a player.
Can I just jump in on that? There's one thing that I wanted to say about Van der Ven yesterday in his sort of role as captain, and one of the reasons why I actually am a big fan of this sort of leadership group, because when Romero is playing, it's a different vibe for me when he's captain. He's a lot more quiet. There's not so much directing players around, but to have, and I think we've not seen enough of Udogie this season. He's been unlucky with injuries, and Jed Spence is kind of doing his thing. But to me, to have players like Vicario, Van der Ven, and Porro in particular, who are all incredibly passionate and incredibly vocal, I think that really, really helps, because that's one of the only worries I had about Romero being captain was, how good is his English? Of course, he can speak some English, but to have a player like Micky, I think even the way he celebrated, and there's something I always like to think about when I think of Spurs players. I always think the pinnacle is Rafael van der Vaart, in my opinion. When you look at a player that wears the shirt and just gets what it means to play for our club, and creates a much, much closer bond between fans and the players. And I think it's quite hard. A lot of players, certainly in this day and age, they're not as good with it. And obviously there are clubs that are starting to adopt stuff. I think Coventry in the Championship, for example, getting very involved with the fans. It looks like Sunderland have that with their players. But players like Mickey, who play every minute like wearing that shirt really means something, I think is so, so important. And especially in the long term, we've got to nail him down onto a new contract.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the thing as well, because obviously we talk about that leadership team. I mean, the Vicario one for me was a little bit of a, I'm not too sure. And I know FORMZ, we've touched on it, so I'll come to you first on this one. Because I have been one of the people, not necessarily doubting Vicario, but thinking there wasn't something quite right with him, obviously, with the last couple of games we've had. But the Monaco game and this game, he really looked like he was back to himself.
I also just think that footballers are humans and you actually have no idea what's going on with them at home. Like, he could have had some really sad news for like 3-4 weeks that affected him a little bit. And yes, the argument is you're being paid all this money. When you step onto the field, you leave everything. Sometimes you just can't. And look, I don't know him. I don't know if that's actually the case. However, I just think that when a player who we know has obvious quality, we've been saying since we signed him, he's an incredible shot stopper. And this whole notion of like, oh, he can't catch a cross and this, that, the other. Like, we haven't actually conceded that many corners where he's gone and he's missed the ball. Like, it was such a social media thing, like narrative that got pushed on everyone. So I just think that the hate might be a little bit forced because we love to hate. And I think that on paper, we've got a very good squad at the minute that look very unified. And I think that because there's no, I guess, a hierarchy to blame for something going wrong, we always look for that thing. It's like, even for me, if I'm like, well, not anymore, because I think I've like switched the mentality. But back when I started social media, I'd have 300 incredible comments and I'd only focus on the one that was bad. It's just what we're geared to do as humans. I think Vicario's great. He's a keeper, so he sees the entire field. He screams and he shouts for 90 minutes. He's got passion, and that drips down from his family. I've seen his parents at multiple away games, European and in the UK, and I think that they're happy to sit in a pub and chat to fans because they're passionate about football. He's football at his core. Absolutely. And I just think that being part of that leadership group is right? Yeah. Then I think it's definitely worth having him in there because he, I guess, has that influence on the squad. You even see what he was like for a brief moment in the Madison vlog, and I just think he's a great character to have around, and that mixed with his passion for football and the fact that he is actually a good goalkeeper, and with take the last few games for example, players. The defenders, albeit our back four has been solid and fantastic, and we've got Polina in the 6 who's like, okay, cool, I'm here now, I've got you. Even down to the attackers will look at the saves that he's been making and they go, okay, cool, we can trust this guy. We know what he's doing. He's going to inspire us to then kick on, because if he's putting that effort in and making those saves and making sure we don't concede, we kind of have to do our job, otherwise it's our fault. And I'll even pivot onto Romero for that case, because I can't remember which one of you said that Romero is not like the loudest or the most passionate leader. I think it was Josh. And that's absolutely fine, because you look at like the 2 most recent captains that he's had to learn off of, and it was Sonny and Messi. And it's like, then they lead by, look at us play, I've got you, and I'll inspire you that way. And I think Romero is the same. The players look at him in that sense and go, okay, you've won every final you've been in. We won't talk about the Super Cup. You've won every final you've been in. You are a world-class Rolls-Royce defender. Facts. And so you'll lead on the pitch rather than your words. And I think Vicario's kind of got both. It's like, okay, I'm a good goalkeeper. You're going to watch me do my thing. But if I do slip up, it's fine, because I'm going to scream and shout and I'll give you that passion. So he's kind of got the best of both. I really like Vicario. I waffle an awful lot whenever I'm on here. I'm going to stop now.
What you said is valid. I mean, because obviously, Gary, there was that point in the game where obviously it looked like Everton had scored, and you kind of see the kind of involvement with the 2 Everton players and Vicario was kind of deemed for offside. And I don't think it was necessarily harsh. I was just annoyed that it took so long. And I think that kind of what FORMZ said, I think that's the only thing sometimes it's been a narrative that he hasn't got that strength when there's kind of players impeding him.
I think you could have said yes, the last season in spells, but because the manager we had at the time put no emphasis on defending set pieces, as clearly seen when he obviously goes to Nottingham Forest and concedes quite a large amount in a very small amount of games. And this season, quite clearly, there's been an emphasis on defensive structure, but also defensiveness from set pieces. And I don't really think he's looked at all in danger from any sort of set pieces this year. My only criticism of him is that, and this is a goalkeeper wide thing that's happened now. I'm a little bit older than all of you, and I've always seen that keepers would save the ball, they'd hold it. He has this tendency to push it out, and this has been coming in quite a lot. One of my friends is a goalkeeping coach, and I asked him, like, where do you think this has started from? And he's put it down to a lot of South American goalkeepers tend to do this a lot, and it's sort of coming into more wider the games that they're pushing the ball away. And he did a couple of yesterday where he probably could have just held on to it. I think it was Gary Neville co-commentating. They even said, like, why is he not holding that there? And that's my only real criticism of him. Look, it's not great at times with his feet, but I can take that if he's an incredible shot stopper, which he is. So there isn't many goalkeepers out there right now that I would say I'd love to have him over Vicario. There's obviously a couple, Gino Roma and whatnot, but these are the elite of the elite, and I think he's very up there, and I think he's highly underrated. I think, like what FORMZ was saying, we're looking for somebody as a scapegoat. We go to Thomas Frank and we look at a Vicario as well. But the weirdest comment, and everyone's going to go, well, yeah, obviously, if he makes a mistake, there's a goal. How many mistakes does a player on that pitch, the other 10 players, make during a game? Misplaced the pass, shot, cross. And we don't, well, some of us analyse it if you go on Twitter, but it's not analysed a huge amount. He makes one mistake, that's a goal. 90% of the time. So he needs to be consistent at every second of the game. And I think, like FORMZ was saying, sometimes he needs a little bit of grace because he keeps us in games. Like yesterday, I thought he kept us in that, and he deserves that man of the match as much as what Mickey did, in my opinion.
No, it's definitely a great shout. I think that's the thing as well. Obviously, there is lots of comments about Vicario, and I even said it myself at the time when he wasn't performing very well, Josh. I was like, oh, give Kingsky a go. But it is easy to kind of say that when you've got someone on the bench that you think can step up to the mark.
No, absolutely. I think I saw the stats yesterday after the Everton game. I think we're in the top 2 teams in terms of fewest goals conceded from set pieces. We've only conceded 2 goals in the second half in the Premier League, and we've got the 4th best or joint 3rd best defensive record in the league. We've only conceded 7. So I think what makes it worse, right, is the majority of goals we have conceded this season probably have been as a result of something Vicario could have done better. You look at the Brighton game, the Iari goal, you look at the Wolves game, the Bournemouth game. These are games where, the result we could have easily got something different in that game had that little mistake not happened. And actually, my problem this season, Leeds was the same. At least, thankfully, we won that game. But actually, all of the issues this season, I think, with Vicario have come from one thing, which Gary touched on, which is that situation where, trying to hold on to the ball rather than parry it. And, I think it was was the Wolves game where he parried it and it hit the arse of one player and then rebounded off of the shin of the Wolves player to go in. But at the same time, the Monaco game should have lost that. There's no dispute there. It's not even up for debate. Vicario saves us. And yesterday could have easily been a different game had Vicario not stepped up when he needed to. So there are always going to be games. But I think the thing that really impresses me is the fact that when things are going rough, and there were, I think it's fair to say there's been a spell where the team's not played well, and the goals that we have conceded have come from probably areas where Vicario could have done better. I think the Villa game, people are again trying to blame Vicario, but I would blame Bentancur for both of them because 2 times it was his man that he didn't close down. But, I think the thing that really impresses me is the fact that when things are going rough, and there were, I think it's fair to say there's been a spell where the team's not played well, and the goals that we have conceded have come from probably areas where Vicario could have done better. I think the Villa game, people are again trying to blame Vicario, but I would blame Bentancur for both of them because 2 times it was his man that he didn't close down. it takes a lot of mental strength to come back from that and to put in 2 top draw performances like he did against Monaco and Everton in the same week. So this to me strikes me as the type of guy that even when the chips are, against him, he's still keeping strong. And, I completely back what you're saying, Forms, in terms of his parents and his upbringing. Quite clearly, when I've met Vicario's parents, you can see, I mean, exactly that. And goalkeepers are crazy, right? Goalkeepers are crazy.
You
And this
have to
guy,
be.
yeah, of course you have to be. And he's probably one of the craziest there is. And actually, in many ways, if you were to look back down the years and you were to think about like Hugo Lloris, right? I think most fans would look back and say he was a top goalkeeper. How many games did Hugo Lloris make a mistake that led to a goal over that 10-year period? Quite a lot. How many times did he have a dodgy moment? Quite a lot. But we would look back at him as a top goalkeeper. Vicario reminds me of him an awful lot. I think, Lloris came to the club. He was meant to be one of the best goalkeepers with his feet. We were all complaining about Lloris with his feet towards the back end of his team at Spurs. Vicario is much the same, but as a shot stopper, I mean, wow, what a keeper. And I think it's good now that his confidence is up. I think that just gives us that extra bit of confidence, because if you know that you can trust your goalkeeper if a mistake is made, and you can trust your defenders if the ball gets lost, because look, let's face it, I think where we seem to be losing the ball an awful lot this season is in the final third, and so I think there's an awful lot of unfair and weird negativity around Tottenham at the moment. Yeah, the performances aren't very good, but look at what we've got at the back. And Thomas Frank, I think, has been quite clear in saying that, we've got to start from square one. We've got to start with the foundation, being solid defensively. You look at all the stats, we're absolutely solid defensively, especially compared to last season. It's a completely different situation that we're in now. And so we need to now just give it time to let the rest of it settle in. But Vicario, I'm impressed with the mentality there. And I think he's justifying not only why he's playing over Kinski, because you mentioned, obviously, Kinski, who, from what I've heard, is apparently not quite progressed in the way I think the club had hoped. And you've got to play with that mentality. That even when things are going wrong, he can turn it around and say, actually, no. I think he's not one of those people that seems to come out in the media and get slippy or any of that sort of thing. You get some players that do that. He just lets his foot do the talking. So I think, long may it continue for Vic.
100%. I mean, we're going to slightly move away, obviously, from the Vicario. I want to talk about Sarr, because Forms, I've been a little bit confused, and I know Thomas Frank is still trying to find his necessarily his best team. But Sarr was brilliant at the start of the season and had that little injury, and now he can hardly get into the team. But obviously, we saw him score yesterday against Everton. So for you, is it purely just Frank just trying to work out what he wants to play best, where and when? Or do you think Sarr, I don't know, maybe has done something particularly wrong in the background?
I can't imagine a character like Sarr having done something that rash to cause a response that's like, okay, cool, you're not going to play anymore. Because otherwise he just wouldn't be involved in the squad. I think we know Sarr's ability. I think he was our best player in pre-season. And I think Frank knows exactly how to use Sarr. I just think that with the obvious need for a Polinia figure to be on the pitch at all times, you then have 2 other options to choose from in midfield. And with the quality of someone like Xavi, and when it will click, he will be the starting 10 every game, and he can forget playing on the left wing. You're then kind of only really left with one option. Now, Bentancur obviously is the experience. He's the winner. He's the reason. And I know that the majority of us, whenever we see Polinia and Bentancur start together, we're like, oh, not this again. It doesn't really work. It does work in some games. And I think Frank has had this, not problem, but this thing where, like, who is my strongest 11? I like, we need consistency. You look at the way that the back four, I'm going to say with Spence at left back, has been that consistent throughout the season so far, and look how well it's done us. So I think it's probably a stability thing, in the sense of we needed that figure in front of the back four. And then it just limits your options because you've also got a talent in Bergvall, you've also got a talent in Gray. And I think Sarr's just kind of, in my opinion, because again, we don't know what's happened behind closed doors, but I think that's probably all it's come down to. Whenever he plays, whenever he comes off the bench, it's an immediate energy injection. I'm really happy that he got the goal. It was a really muted celebration, and I'm really interested to know why. Maybe it's because he's not playing, so he's not as gassed to score. But then on the flip side, if you haven't been starting and you haven't been playing, you score, like, be passionate. So I don't know what the reason was behind that.
There
I'm not going
was
to read.
there was a guy, a Senegal player who died in Ghana, and Sarr posted about it and was quite devastated about it. Knew it, so I don't know if there was a respect thing going on there. I think there's been all sorts of rumours, but don't you think people are reading too much into it? I think,
Yeah, I think it's a case. I mean, I'm really upset for him in that case, but it's one of them that's like, because of social media, everyone's an analyst. Like, we know Sarr's quality, but the fact that he's on the bench is actually probably a good thing because it means we finally got something we haven't had for years, and that's depth. Even with injuries in the midfield, we've still got depth, and it's one of them where, like, cool, you can build your own narrative if you want, but at the end of the day, if we're getting results and he's still playing where Thomas Franks sees fit, you've just got to trust the fact that that's the way it probably should be. But we all know, like I said, we all know Sarr's ability. So when he does get that chance and he does get a consistent run of games, I'm confident he's going to absolutely do what he did in pre-season and smash it.
And I think
I
that's
feel
the
like
thing.
we're thinking about him wrong. I think we're thinking about Sarr wrong.
Yeah.
This is an assumption that Sarr is one of the holding midfielders, right? And what did he do yesterday? He was an attacking threat. What was he in pre-season? He was an attacking threat. And I think you used the word stability, right? And I think that's exactly it. Bentancur was superb yesterday. He was absolutely fantastic. He was winning every challenge. He was brilliant. To what I mentioned before, which was that Frank wants to build this solid base defensively, because then you're going to stop yourself from losing football matches, even if it comes at the cost of winning some games. At least you're not losing them. Look at the Monaco game, the Bodo game, the Brighton game. Could have easily lost some of these games, but we got a point. And again, I think under Ange, we probably lose those games. So I feel like with Sarr, there's also the Xavi dilemma, which is that Xavi Simons is not playing very well at all right now. And he's taking perhaps longer than we would have hoped to bed in. And is there a case of actually Sarr might be better as an attacking midfielder because we know he can shoot, we know he's a threat, and he's really good at making runs. But is Frank trusting Xavi Simons right now because he's thinking, I've also got to deal with this player's mentality right now?
Yeah.
A player like Simons is not playing well. Am I going to keep giving him game time to build himself into form, hopefully? I think if we're into midway through November and Simons is still dropping stinkers every single game, there's no doubt Sarr will be playing instead.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like right now, he's probably taking that slightly conservative approach. It's going to be painful for the first few months, but eventually, we're not even talking about Kulusevski and Maddison when these players come back. Because I think if you're looking at strongest 11, in my opinion, Kulusevski would be that 10 because of the work rate alone. So I feel like it's actually a good problem to have too many players of good quality for too few positions.
Yeah, we're just not used to it.
Squad.
And that's why we're just combusting because we don't understand why we're not playing players that should be played. No, Spurs fans, it's called depth. It's a good thing.
Yeah. We didn't have it for 2 years. Get used to it now.
Only part of the pitch where I would say we have genuine, real depth. And Sarr's a young guy still, and Bergvall's a young guy. These guys are going to take time. Guarantee you, Sarr will start at Newcastle. Guaranteed. He will start. And, we've got so many games coming up, Champions League games. He's going to be needed. He's going to get minutes. And I would much rather see Bentancur and I'll be honest, to what we were saying, when they say, oh, not again Bentancur and Palhinha. Would you much rather see Sarr play against Newcastle or PSG compared to Everton? No disrespect to Everton, but I think if you're going to have to rotate, I'd much rather see Sarr play against Chelsea than against Everton.
Yeah. Agreed.
No, it is interesting. I think that's the thing, like you kind of all alluded to. It's weird being a Spurs fan and having this much depth. I don't know how to, and that's why it's fun to ask these questions, because it's nice to kind of hear a different point of view than the straight up. Yeah, he's obviously not choosing him because of this, or he's not choosing him because of that. But it's nice to have that kind of headache for Frank, so to
You
speak.
just got to think about it. If you think about it logically, and unfortunately, a lot of the noises you hear on social media probably don't. It's reactive. Whereas you got, Josh and FORMZ there have hit it nail on the head. We need to use the squad, and we're actually using the squad and using the depth of the squad going into quite a busy period of time for us. If you actually sit down and think about it, it makes complete, total sense. And I think Josh hit it on there. Like Xavi Simons, I think needs to be playing to try and get that confidence, because we know that Sarr's going to come in, and we know we're going to get that because he's been playing in this league for a number of years. So I think Thomas Frank's been really sensible in the way he's using things. We're just not patient as human beings anymore. It might not show up. No, it's not going to. So it's like a floating hand, but it's a mobile phone. We're just that has killed us as a human race, that everything is so instant. We don't have any patience for a lot of stuff, and football is very much like that. We need patience, and using those squads. Lads hit it nail on the head there.
Same thing
that.
with Johnson, right? Same thing with Brennan Johnson. Didn't Johnson start the first game in God knows how long? Our top scorer last season.
Yeah.
But
everyone's analysing these. Everyone wants to analyse it and think that there's something going on, or there's a conspiracy, or someone's falling out. We're just actually being able to use a squad for once.
No,
we haven't been able to really use it for 2 years.
Be happy. We're third, 9 games in.
Yes,
long may it continue. And long may somebody knock them off the top. Like, don't just be it. We're winning games. We're not losing games. All right, Villa can get stuff, but we're.
But he said that his press conference, right? He said, "Look, we're going to lose games." One of the first things he said, "We're going to lose games. Get used to that, but we're going to make sure that we don't do that." And he's come in and really fixed that defensive structure. You look third in the league, joint top in goals scored. Joint second in conceded, 4 clean sheets in the league, which is third best in the league. Best away record in the league. Unbeaten in the Champions League, 5 points. 2 clean sheets out of 3 in the Champions League. 4th round in the Carabao Cup. I've got a big list down here that I wrote before I came on. I could carry on going. How are you not? How are people not happy with this?
We finally won a trophy and went, now we need more. What?
Yeah.
We waited so long for that. Just be happy that it's not going to shit.
We're just obsessed with the style of play, though. That's the thing, right?
Honestly.
I don't care. I'll be honest. Entertain me all you want and come 13th, 14th, right? I would much rather do what Arsenal's doing, where they're boring as hell to watch a lot of the time, but they're winning football matches. Yeah. And yesterday, we didn't play very well. In terms of putting together an eye-catching, entertaining performance. It wasn't an edge-of-the-seat performance. It was clinical. It was professional. It was job done, like we did at City, like we did at West Ham. And I'd much rather see that and the points in the bag than, again, I think Ange has probably ruined this for us somewhat. This sort of thing where you've got to play this super entertaining football all of the time. Like, I love the long throws. I love the towel. I love all of it. It's good to see something slightly different. And it's good to see a different side of Spurs rather than, we play lovely football, but we win nothing. We play lovely football, but we've missed out on Champions League again. I just think, we need to just chill out.
I don't know if people are watching it on YouTube, but Josh has got an Italy shirt on and there's 4 little stars above that logo, right? And you can see it now in that shot. There's 4 stars above that. What's the thing that Italy have always been great at doing? Defensive structure. And FORMZ, you said it probably within the first 2 minutes of this podcast. Defense wins championships. That's a fact. That's in anything. So getting that defensive structure. Thomas Frank is a highly intelligent person. He's come in. He's gone. We cannot leak that amount of goals. We need to settle this down immediately. We need to be a little bit boring, but we need to be professional, like Josh was saying. And then with the players, the attacking players that are coming back, we can then build on that. But we need to build somewhere first, and straight away you have to build that defensive structure.
Mhm.
And defense wins championships. And look, I'm not saying we're gonna win the league or anything like that, but people are coming in and thinking, oh, we should be winning. We should be winning this cup. We should be winning that. We should be doing 5-star performances. We've got to work on one thing at a time. You can't work on everything at once. So that patience is where I think a lot of our fan base needs to start relaxing a little bit and understand patience. Because if you can't, those sort of stats that I just quickly read out to you, if you can't feel impressed by 90% of that, I'm not quite sure this club is for you long term.
Preach. No, 100%. I think that's the thing. When you've got context, there's lots of things. Obviously, it does bore me as well, but we're winning games, so be it. And that's kind of how we're kind of progress. Because obviously, we do have Newcastle in the week, which again I think will cause lots of changes. I think we will see it. But I kind of want to skip past that because before we kind of go and close up, I do want to talk about the big game at the weekend against Chelsea. So I'll come to you first, Forms. Obviously, it's a big one against them lot. How are you kind of feeling going into it?
My head's been so focused on Newcastle, I haven't even thought about Chelsea. But Chelsea, we're just going to beat them, aren't we? Like, what is a Chelsea? They're either going to get a man sent off or concede to us in the last minute. Like, they're not. I don't think they are as unified as they were at the Club World Cup. I think their Club World Cup honeymoon aura has very much died down, and when it's come to getting down to the nitty gritty and actually playing Premier League teams in a proper competition, it's been like decent, but not what you'd probably expect from Chelsea. I never like to say I'm not worried about a certain team because it's the Prem and anything can happen, and actually, having said that, though, like my argument would have been all right now, but we're home, we should be all right. But it's away where we're okay, and home isn't really that. But it's Chelsea at home. The fans will be behind the team. We're off the back of yes, we didn't play too well, but a convincing win against Everton. Hopefully, we build some momentum against Newcastle. And even if we do rotate and we lose to Newcastle, I don't think that's going to affect us too much going into the weekend. Frank. And also, I've got it in my head. I'm really waffling. I've got it in my head that, still the Ange way of we're only going to play the same way every game. Frank isn't that. Frank will set up to beat a Maresca side. So I just think as long as the 11 is the strongest it can possibly be, I think that we could go and get a result.
It would be nice.
Maybe that was me talking myself into getting to that end point.
No, it's fine though, because it is true. I think obviously after the kind of games we've had at the Lane, Gary, it would be nice to obviously beat them. And I know I had Billy on last week and we were talking about how the stadium at the moment with the fans, the atmosphere isn't quite there. But like Form said, for a Chelsea game, it's going to be there.
Yeah, it needs to be, but I argue that it needs to be all the time, and it hasn't been. And there's another argument, I guess, but it definitely will be this at the weekend. It's going to be a difficult game. They've lost two in the last 6, I think, and they've won all the other games. So they've been very, very good in the way that they've been playing. Obviously, they lost at the weekend against Sunderland. I think a bit like the forms. If it was away, I'd probably feel a bit more confident. But I think it's going to be a tough game. If we can get a point, I'd be very happy. We just traditionally do struggle really against Chelsea. I just hope that is a change. But Thomas Frank is not somebody that's going to play one way like Forms is saying. He's going to go in there with a game plan. It's going to be something different. I think definitely I said this in a couple of other podcasts, if us as a fan base struggle to sort of pick the lineup and the formation, that's a good thing because we live and breathe this. This is, most of us, this is all we talk about. And I'm sure by looking at everyone's setups here, you're all content creators too. So it's, you're engrossed in everything that Tottenham Hotspur. And if you're struggling to pick those lineups, maybe these elite managers are too. And that's a good sign. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the game. I'm actually going to be the first one of the season I won't be able to see because I'm actually in Paris. But I'm hoping for at least a draw. If we can get that, I'll be very pleased with that.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, for you, Josh, obviously, like what Gary said, it's very hard to choose a team at the minute, which is what I'm liking compared, mind you, Barpolina and Bentancur. That's kind of the running joke at the minute. But for you, Josh, how not maybe how you feel it's going to be set up, but how do you see the game kind of panning out?
I don't want to be the negative one and the bearer of bad news because I feel like it's been actually a really positive pod, which is such a nice change from being
Thanks for
on.
joining us, Josh. And next week we're going to be.
But
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Look, Chelsea's playing Wolves, and Chelsea, we know the depth that they have. They'll probably be able to rotate a lot more players and get over the line in that one because Wolves, they're pretty stinking. Look, our record is not good against Chelsea. Let's make no mistake about that. And our home form is not good. Newcastle is so important. Look, I know, FORMZ, I know you said like you don't think if we lose it will make that much of a difference. You're probably right, but the cups mean an awful lot to us, I think, as fans. And when I saw that draw and we got Newcastle, I just rolled my eyes. I thought this could not be a worse draw. I think
Yeah.
that and Anfield were probably the two that I didn't want more than anything else. And look, let's look at some positives. No Cole Palmer for Chelsea, which is good. No Levi Colwill for Chelsea, which is good. João Pedro has been on and off with injuries, had a bit of a niggling problem, so we don't know how he's going to be come Sunday or Saturday, sorry. But if we win against Newcastle, I think that will make a massive difference to the atmosphere because then, the so-called negative performances, I think that changes things slightly. But also, I'm quite confident with Thomas Frank when it comes to playing good sides. I think in a way there's an argument to say that we actually set up better against decent teams than we do against the teams that we really should be beating. So, and he was like that Brentford as well. Brentford, it was a very, very tough place for teams to go. I know we obviously went and won there, but a lot of teams struggled to go to the G-Tech and play Brentford under Thomas Frank when it was, a big side. So, um, I think that the game will be very close. I just hope the emotion, that's the thing I'm worried about more than anything. And you mentioned forms like a red card, right? History shows us that we're the team that gets the red cards. We're the team
Not
that loses
anymore.
in this fixture, right? I'd like to think that it's not going to be the case, but we may be without Romero again. I'm pretty pleased with Danso. I think Danso had a great performance against Everton. And actually, dare I say it, and I hate to say this because I love Romero, but I wouldn't be at all disappointed if Romero can't play in that game. Just because I think if there is a player that is going to be the guy, we know Romero actually. It's a bit of a misnomer because Romero, his discipline's actually been very good over the last season and a bit, but I can never forget, that game when when Ange Ball fell apart after 10 games and we got Udogi should have seen red for the first challenge, eventually did see red, and Romero also saw red, and both of them won't be playing. So, look, it's going to be tight. I think we need the fans. We've got to make noise. We've got to make it intimidating because I think the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium has been anything but over the last year or so. But also at the same time, look, sorry, Gary, I'm not taking a draw in that game. It's Chelsea, and for me,
I agree.
I don't know how you guys feel, but I hate Arsenal. I really hate Arsenal. I hate Arsenal also because I have to hate Arsenal. But I feel like my genuine hatred of Chelsea is like personal for me. I think I have a more visceral reaction about Chelsea than I do even Arsenal. So for me, yeah, we've got to go there. We've got to win. We've got to be tough to beat. It may be, Chelsea dominating the game. It may be a lot of shots. We're going to need Vic at his best. We're going to need our centre backs at their best. We're going to need, Bentancur, Palhinha at their very best. And if we can nick a goal, if we can get a goal, I think it's going to be one goal in it for me. But yeah, I'm quietly confident, but I also live with two Chelsea fans, so that's not going to be very nice if we don't win.
No, we've got to win for your sake, Josh, if it's not for anything else. But no, it will be an interesting game. It will be a difficult game. Obviously, got that game against Newcastle in the week, and then that one against Chelsea. But hopefully, it is a pleasant week, and we can talk about a win next week. But I guess that kind of wraps up tonight's show. It has been a very, very good one. I have thoroughly enjoyed it with you guys. So we'll go around the table and say our goodbyes. So, Forms, first of all, it's great to have you back on, my friend. Where can everybody find you doing your thing?
Just that little name there. Just type it in everywhere. Thank you very much for having me on. I actually am going to flex for a sec because I went to the training ground the other day and they let me lift the trophy. It was the heaviest thing I've ever lifted in my life, and it was worth every single second of it. And you'll find out exactly why I was at the training ground and who I was filming with very soon. So follow me on everything, and you'll see it all.
I'm very jelly. When I went the other week, I didn't get to hold that thing, so I am very jelly about your Forms. But no, it's good to have you on again, Forms. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So make sure you check out Forms as well. Gary, it's been awesome to have you on this show tonight. Where can everybody find you doing your thing as well?
I appreciate you having me. Thanks very much. Twitter, Gary R. Ward. Talk mostly, obviously, Tottenham, but quite a lot of Serie A as well. Got a big Italian football fan. So, yeah, if you want to talk either of those. And Football Manager, to be honest, is quite one of my big passions as well. So, either of those three, I'm over there chatting about that. But thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. It's been a great show. Like I say, it's easier to do it when we win. And Josh, thank you as well. Where can everybody find you doing your thing too?
Is it there? There you go. At Josh Hughes TV on Twitter. Don't really tweet much anymore. I used to tweet a lot more. I used to do a lot more Twitter Spaces, but occasionally you might see me tweet a little bit more. I've been fighting battles in various group chats about Thomas Frank, and I will die on that rock on Thomas Frank because I believe he will be the manager to take us forward. So yeah, but thank you for having me on. I think it's been a very long time actually since I've been on the channel. And I was unfortunately late. Sorry for that. But be a pleasure to come on anytime you want me. And been a pleasure to be on with you guys as well.
Right, it's been a good show. Like I say, I really appreciate you all coming on as well. Thank you to everybody that's been in the chat too, that's been watching this live, that's going to be rewatching this. Make sure you like, share, share. You can see it's past 8 o'clock. Make sure you subscribe and share, and make sure you go follow out these guys as well. Does also leave me to say a little plug for myself as well. I've been doing the 100 miles challenge for Alzheimer's, and I know a few of you have already donated. So I just want to say a big thank you because this is the last week of the challenge. So thank you very much. And like I say, hopefully next week on Hollie's Hotspurs Live, we'll have a win to talk about against Chelsea. But I guess until next time, go on you Spurs.